past Sunday, Pastor Matt Chandler from the Village Church returned to the pulpit after stepping aside 3 months ago due to what some deemed as unwise DMs exchanged with another woman. So in this video, I want to break down what was said by the lead pastor of the Village Church, the elders, and Matt himself from their service, examine how they handled all of this, and if this return was too soon, and see what the Christian response should be in all this. All that and more is coming up right after this. So if you are not caught up with the whole situation with Matt Chandler in the Village Church, I break that down in this video right over here, so you can go and check that out if you want to know more. But the main thing to know is that Matt was having a conversation with another married woman at his church over Instagram DMs. He wasn't giving out his personal number. This wasn't in secret or in the dark or anything like that. Both spouses were aware of the conversations happening. But one of the woman's friends caught wind of this and deemed their conversation inappropriate for a pastor and a congregate relationship. She, the friend, confronted Matt after church one day, and Matt brought the issue to the elders, feeling disoriented. This led the elders to do a full investigation, and while nothing was found that was sinful in their interactions, the elders did see some warning signs or unwise decisions being made. And so, out of a step of caution, asked Pastor Matt to step aside from his role and begin a process and plan the elders put together before stepping back into the teaching and elder role at the Village Church. Matt thus agreed to this, and the church was made aware, and that's all we had 3 months ago. Now, many have been split on this issue, even in my own comment section on the first video that we did, some believing that there was more to this stories that the elders were covering for Matt, and other conspiracies like that, while others took what was said at face value and saw this as a great example of church discipline and healthy guardrails for pastors. But let's jump into the Village Church's past Sunday, where their lead pastor gave a few words on the subject before allowing Matt back up to speak for himself on the issue and to teach. So let's jump into it. So we have Josh Patterson here come to the front after worship, and here's what he says.
So there's a few things that I want to walk through. I want to let you know this, just right out of the gate, that the elders affirm Matt's reinstatement to the pulpit. As I talked about on August 28th, we walked through a series of events, and I'm going to read some things here where Matt didn't demonstrate behavior that was expected of an elder, as we hold elders to a high standard because the scriptures hold elders to a high standard. We believe that, we affirm that, and we have seen that play itself out. And over the last several months, Matt has been working diligently through a development plan that was laid out for him by the elders. As a team, as an elder board, we created this plan in consultation with others, namely Summer Vincent Berger, who's our Senior Director of Care, who has an expertise in developing plans just like this. And we prayerfully considered both the discipline and the development necessary. And we said with that plan, and this is what we told you on August 28th, and then updated you throughout our time, that the plan itself would help us understand when the timing was right. And the timing is right. We find ourselves here this morning eager and excited, and let me give you a little bit of background on that. As we talked about the development plan, one of the aspects that we wanted to make sure was important, and this was our top priority, was the overall health of our church. The Chandlers are included in that, but they weren't the only people involved in that. And so there were a lot of elements that we walked through and tried to keep a real healthy pulse on over these last several months. Matt has completed everything that we've asked of him. He's done it with eagerness, he's done it with humility, he's done it genuinely and authentically. And I'm a better man having watched him do it. And I'm grateful for that. And I know you're right over there. I want to thank you for that. Those closest to Matt have seen these aspects of change, and I'm grateful for that. And by change, I'm talking about just progress as we're working through the realities of our life. But to press into that takes a lot of courage, and that has been demonstrated and displayed. And so I just want you to know, church, how thankful I am for that. As we talk about this posture and the understanding and behavior and all that this has happened, the elders relied on a multidisciplinary team to help us assess and affirm readiness. Matt's readiness, the staff's readiness, and the church's readiness. And again, we have come to a place where we believe now is the time.
So he says that they, the elders, are reinstating Matt. The crowd cheers. He explains how they have been putting him through a development plan put in place by the elders themselves. They talk about the discipleship and the development needed and praying about the right time to allow Matt back to return to the pulpit. He says that those closest to Matt have seen a change in him throughout these 3 months, and not that it's like been this correcting of behavior, but more of a personal growth for him. I think that's an important distinction here, that it wasn't this sinful nature that he needed to turn from that was in his life, but maybe some better wisdom, making some even better decisions than the path that he was on and going. And so what are my thoughts on this first part? Well, it seems like if everything happened the way they claim it did, I think this is a great example of what a restorative process for anyone should look like. I think personally, it is great that they have elders in place that care and are involved to such a level, in such a way that there was so many of them working behind the scenes to make sure that his time away wasn't just a vacation or just a political PR thing, or feel like a punishment for Matt, but was actually looking to care for him and the people involved. I think a lot of times churches don't put resources into the pastoral care, that being the actual care for pastors. They will say, if you are lucky, like, hey, take some time off here, you earn this, or take a sabbatical here for a week or two. But very rarely do pastors actually feel able to do that, and so much work has to go in prior to that to be able to do it and focus on it well, let alone having somebody else organize what you need tailored to you, a sabbatical or time away, to help you grow and develop spiritually. So good on the Village Church for having that all set up. And not just something nice on paper as a policy. Clearly, Matt is beloved by his congregation, as many of them are cheering at the news of his return. And I think for some who are maybe a bit more skeptical could feel like, how could anybody cheer for this? You don't even know all that went into it. This could all be a cover up. And honestly, I get that. But I imagine that if you were at the Village Church and you felt that way and you really didn't have or trust in those serving as elders anyways, why would you stay at such a church? If you believe they're all lying and covering something up, why would you continue to be a member of that kind of church, tied to that kind of church? So I imagine most of those types of people, if any, attending, have already left the church, and those who are in attendance that day feel good about the elders and feel good about the way that things have been handled thus far. And honestly, to those who are watching this and are still skeptical, I'm genuinely curious. Leave a comment in the comment section as to what you would hope the outcome would be here, if not this. I think for many who are jaded towards the church, they are just looking for more fuel to add to the fire of their hatred for the church. And so they're looking for more. There has to be more here. And I don't want to overcategorize anyone, but that's the feeling and impression that I get from many of the people who I see in that camp online. And I would hope that if you really took this opportunity to look at this at face value, to maybe allow that skepticism to say, maybe this is true. If this really is all there is that happened, which again, I don't see any evidence anywhere or reason to think that this isn't the case, then really this should be encouraging to you too, and restore some faith back into the church, being able to handle a situation like this, protect the privacy of all parties involved, including, like he mentioned, Matt's family and family members, who again have done nothing wrong in any way. And I think Matt will give us some more clarity on what this plan was and his thoughts on it. So let's check that out here.
What a weird morning. Of course, I'm sick as a dog, so it's fine. A couple of things. I know that the Christian life's a bit of a marathon. Sometimes you're running uphill and sometimes you're running downhill. Sometimes it's snowing and sometimes it's sunny. And if my foolishness thank you, created any additional weight or hardship for you, then please forgive me. I said back on the 28th that I was real disoriented when this happened because I didn't understand how it happened. I mean, I'm a man who guards his life and doctrine fairly closely, and so I was disoriented by the fact that, one, that the accusation came, and then I was confused by even some of the things that progressed after that, and I do think that it revealed some unhealth in me that was a blind spot that I just couldn't see, and so I couldn't be more grateful that the elders are, look, there are three things to the man. They love the Word of God ferociously, they love Jesus Christ deeply, and they love me and my family. And we have felt that through this whole ordeal. And so there's no, I mean, I hear the whispers that there's no beef between us and the elders. I don't know what you think about their play. I agreed with it. I'm grateful that they love this church, they love Jesus, they love the Word, and they love us enough, that they're driven by conviction enough to model what needed to be modeled here. And so if I caused any burden, I'm so sorry. And then I want to thank the elders, and I want to thank Summer and exec, and I want to thank the staff that had to carry a significant load because of the work I was doing. The elders asked me to do 2 intensives and then a neurological exam, and then, which if you don't know my backstory, we probably needed to do that, right? I don't have a right frontal lobe, if you remember that back in '09. If you're a guest, I had brain cancer. I had to do some surgery and man, I think that process has given me insight into exactly what happened, so that I don't have to be anxious about that or nervous about that. And I think in time, I'll share more. I don't have like 6 key learnings for you this morning. I just feel like fresh out of surgery. So I feel tender and alive to the Lord and grateful to be back with you. And again, I think for all the talking points that may or may not need to happen this morning, I think my heart is, I'm sorry. Like I failed you, and I know you love me, and I know you're so, and I appreciate, so you have so been the grace of God to us tangibly, so thank you for that. But I'm sorry for any burdens I've caused or difficulties that my foolishness kind of brought about in your own journey with the Lord, and I'm so thankful for you and for these elders and for our staff, and like the Lord met us, and he carried us through, and I don't want to lose sight of that. I don't want to lose, like chances of your stuff ever being made public and making salon is probably slim, and yet the Lord's going to be serious about your heart and to pursue the depths of who you are because he loves you. And the more we can submit and bow to King Jesus, the more health, vibrancy, and wholeness is available to us. And so here in a second, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Josh, but I did want to, I've known like today was going to be all eyes on me, and if you've been here for 20 years, you know how much I hate that. So I'm eager for us. You don't leave this behind. This now is a part of our story, right? So I'm like, okay, let's give it, no, we're a whole new place now. I don't even know what that means yet, but we're gonna find out together. So I'm eager for that. And so I'm sorry, thank you. I do love you more than you know I do.
So Matt apologizes for his foolishness, how it possibly hurt people or created any unnecessary weight or burden for people. He mentioned that part of what the plan was that he needed to do a follow-up by having a neurological exam. See, just to give a little bit more context of why he would need a neurological exam is back in the early 2000s, what kind of put Matt in the public eye, if you didn't know, was that he had brain cancer. And I remember, similar to this shot of the elders praying for him now, the elders back then praying for a chemo-induced Chandler. And the Lord used him in that time to give some really powerful messages.
I thank you for the children you've entrusted me with. I want to pray, even in front of all these, for their salvation, regardless of what your plans are for me, that you would draw them to yourselves and that they would love you deeply. And that whether your will for me is an extended period of suffering or healing outright or an early death, that you would guard their hearts against the lies of the enemy that would embitter and confuse them, but that they would love the God of their father, and that that the wickedness that has been in the bloodline of the Chandlers for centuries would go into the ground with me whenever that is, and that a legacy of faith might be left behind. And I don't control that, and I don't get to speak into that, but I do ask you as your servant to be merciful and to extend to them salvation. I love you. I want to love you more than I do. That is my confession. That as far as you've taken me, and as much as you've purified me, and as much as you've pressed and exalted, I want to love you more than I do. I want more of my mind to belong to you than it does. I want more of my heart to worship in you and you alone than it does. And I need your help even now. And it's for your beautiful name. Amen.
He mentioned how the whole thing is now part of the history of the church, part of their story, and now makes the Village Church a new place, whatever that means. And that this isn't something that they can now sweep under the rug and forget about and move on from, but they are now being led in a new direction. And isn't even sure what that all is going to look like. But he closes this time thanking the church for trusting the elders and for the elders having the love for God, the word, and Matt and his family, and how he felt that throughout this entire process. The elders then come up and pray for Matt, and the lead pastor gives Matt the green light to get back to it and start teaching. They go on into worship before Matt goes on to teach. So what do I think about all of this? Personally, I think this is a great example of what church discipline and church discipleship should look like. how to restore a pastor, and how as a pastor, we should submit to our elders and those in leadership above us. So I'm personally glad though that Matt is back in the pulpit to see how this was all handled. I don't think we will ever really get all of the nitty-gritty details though on all of this, and we aren't owed that information at all. I think that's important to know. I don't think the whole situation ever really needs to come out, and I don't think it ever really will. I think the whole situation comes down to either you believing and trusting the elders of the Village Church and their process that they prayed and labored over, or not, and moving on. I wouldn't expect anything else to come out from this. I don't think the woman who spoke out and confronted Matt is looking to expose or do damage to the church, because if she did or felt suppressed that she wasn't able to voice the true story, there are plenty of other outlets that are just looking and waiting for a story like this. And she could have taken full advantage of all of that. But the reality is that she didn't do that in the time that he was gone, and now he's back. So welcome back, Pastor Matt Chandler. I pray for the next chapter for you and the Village Church. This could have been a big threat to some faith and understanding of Christianity, but luckily it wasn't, and I think it was actually a good thing. But if you want to know what is a threat to your faith, click on this video right over here where we talk about that and what to be aware of. Or check out the video right below it that YouTube thinks you're actually really gonna like. Make sure to like and subscribe if you made it this far in the video and you enjoyed it. But until next time, guys, know that you are valued and loved, and I'll see you soon.